from Bob. So we don't want him to be able to say globally replace database values. We don't necessarily want him to be able to merge purge. We don't want him to have access to the territory realignment wizard. So a lot of things under this tools menu, we just don't want Bob to be able to see it at all. The way we edit people's menus in GoldMine is, well, we first have to be logged in as a master user, which would be the master user account or any user with master rights. And this is actually done through the user settings menu. That's under tools down to user settings. For those of you on older versions of GoldMine, it'll be under file configure users. And every user here on my list has properties associated with him. So I'm going to select Bob and go to the properties. And among other cool stuff to play with here, there is the menu tab. And what this allows us to do is actually, if I expand these menu items here, you can see that what this is actually representing are all of the GoldMine menu items for Bob. And I can turn them on or off by simply clicking these little push pins. So for instance, I don't want him to be able to open up a new database, because I might have other databases on my network other than production. We don't exactly want Bob to be in there, so I'm going to take away my open database. I don't want him to create a new database or maintain databases or any of this database stuff in general. I typically don't want people to have access to global replace or even to the merge purge wizard, or certainly not to delete records typically. Okay, so what you'll see here, I hope you get the idea that what I'm actually doing is as I'm modifying Bob's GoldMine menu. So now that I've taken away most of the stuff under his tools, let's take away his synchronize. And I'm going to show you a really nice easy way to deploy this to other people as well. Take away my APs or my automated processes, take away my server agents. And while we're at it, let's make his complete menu a little nicer to look at. So we'll expand his complete menu. So Bob, don't worry about your to-dos, don't worry about events, other actions. He's not doing sales, he's not doing next actions, he's not doing messages. He's just doing calls and appointments. We're going to make it really easy for Bob. I go ahead and I hit OK. Now, if Bob's logged into GoldMine at this moment, he's going to have to restart his GoldMine to affect the change. So what we're going to have to do is just log in as Bob. Okay, now we're in as Bob. So the first thing I want to show you is that our tools menu, wow, where did all that stuff go? Alright, so our tools menu is greatly shortened, right? So we don't want people to have access to the really dangerous things in GoldMine. Things like global replace or delete records. As a matter of fact, I had a call just about 2 weeks ago. Poor guy says, hey Justin, I need to know how to undelete a contact record out of GoldMine. To which the answer is, you can't. You can't undelete a contact record. So he's like, well, what do I do then? I want to get this guy back. I says, well, if you have a SQL backup, we can do some things to where we can grab that record out, but it's going to take probably about an hour, hour and a half of my time. And the question always comes down to, how valuable is that record to you? Is this a record that you just couldn't simply re-enter into the system? Again, we don't want to ever have to go there with this whole delete fiasco, so we just take it right away. And again, our complete menu now, wow, look at that. So much more friendlier. So now, the only thing that Bob has to worry about is going to complete, unscheduled, and one of these items, or an appointment. So, that's a really nice way. And again, I know it seems like the littlest thing, but I'm telling you what, the littlest things really add up in GoldMine, especially when you have new users. Because people see these crazy menus when they first start using GoldMine, and they get really scared, really apprehensive. So we want to make it as friendly as possible. Let's go back to our user settings menu. And we're going to go back to Bob's properties and back to his menu. What I want to show you is that after I've worked hard on taking away Bob's menu items, I can actually save his menu template as a template. So I'm actually going to call this the end user template. The idea being that if I wanted to deploy the identical menu scenario to say gym, all I have to do is select gym, go to properties, go to menu, and then select the end user template. And I just double check just to make sure. Yes. Good. Is there a way to apply the same template to more than one person at once? Unfortunately, no. You will have to go into every user, hit properties, go to menu, and then select the appropriate template. But again, when we think about new users in GoldMine, we want their brain power typically to be spent on, you know, talking with the client, putting in their call notes. So the last thing we want them to do is get confused with all the tabs and all of the menu items that might be available in GoldMine. Okay, we have just a few minutes left, so I do want to show you one more thing. This is actually part of the tips and tricks. Excuse me. I actually didn't put it in here because what we actually found was that some people were having problems with it. What I'm talking about is SMS texting out of GoldMine. So let's consider myself. I'm going to put in my cell phone number. Bear with me. That's actually under the Actions menu. That's under Actions, Call Contact, Send SMS Text Message. Now, anyone who's owned a phone in the last 10 years knows what a text message is. So phones can text each other, and that's great. I use it all the time. What this allows us to do, you'll see here that when I bring up this menu, it allows me to easily text the current contact record's cell phone with text. But why we've seen problems in the field with this is that people have to know their provider. Every provider has their own little nuances of how the text wants to go out, and GoldMine just needs to know what provider it is. So in my case, I know what my provider is. It's AT&T. So you'll notice here that I can't even select, or I can't even type in any message until I select a provider. And I hit send, and it kind of goes out like an email, by which I mean it goes through this GoldMine process monitor. And when I send an SMS text, I get a history, and I can always see part of that history. I can see what number it was sent to and what the message was. Again, that was Actions, Call Contact, Send Text. Again, you gotta know their provider. I don't believe that the provider, bear with me, persists. So if I go to this new contact and I go to Actions, Call, Text, it wants to know the provider. If I go back to Justin Hill, oh, look at that. It remembered. Oh, I didn't know it did that. That's kind of neat. Okay, so now that I've selected my provider once, and as long as if I don't have anything in that extension 1, it's going to remember that Justin is on the AT&T network. So I guess everyone's kind of saying to themselves, that's kind of neat, Justin, but why would I ever use it? I can't imagine people using this to be texting their clients. I guess maybe in my little minded universe here. Where I could see a real benefit with this is that if you were maybe a dispatcher and you had all of your employees' contact records in GoldMine. So let's imagine Justin Hill isn't exactly a client. He's a consultant on the run. And he's in his car waiting in various parking lots, waiting for his next appointment. And I'm just going to text him, perhaps, driving directions. or things like that. I could see a real benefit to that. And again, you do need to know your provider, and like I had mentioned, we did have a couple of people that did unfortunately have some problems with it. I believe with the T-Mobile and even the Singular seemed to be a little sporadic whether or not they worked. But again, play around with it. It's a really nice deal. As a matter of fact, my father owns a heating and air conditioning business in Syracuse, New York. And he has about 15 service trucks on the road, and we use this every day to send driving directions to people's phones. And it does work, as long as you know your provider, your phones are set up for it. It works pretty darn good. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to invite you all to hit *6 to unmute your lines and hit me with any questions or comments you might have. Okay, very good. Well, I'd like to thank you all again for joining me this morning. You can always find our last batch of tips and tricks at blog.marksgroup.net. And if you scroll down here on the right-hand side, you can see all of our tips and tricks going back from ages past. And again, my name is Justin Hill. You can always reach me at justin@marksgroup.net. Do not be afraid to email me a question or two. I'm always looking for that next batch of crystal tip, or GoldMine tips and tricks. So please don't be shy. And again, thanks for joining me and have a great day.